Hi guys, welcome back. All right, so this is going to be a collective message for the 15th of December. I always like to put these out now in advance of the day that it will be, at least in my time zone, because I know people watch from around the world. This is the channel where I do collective reads, and you guys get a chance to suggest a topic if you have something in mind that you would specifically like. In this case, let's give a shout out to Tammy Secord. Tammy suggested a topic for a storytelling about intuition and kind of how to enhance that. I kind of rearranged the messages just a little bit, or the suggestion, and rephrased it as all about the gut. And so let's go ahead and see if we focus in on that topic. What do we get? Tammy, thank you for such a lovely idea. I know a lot of you were like, yes, cheering that one on. So I was like, definitely we'll do this topic. All right. We are starting out with a Knight of Pentacles. So when we talk about things being all about the gut, all about instinct, it's really hard to hear one's intuition, perhaps when we are an armadillo. And the word armadillo translates to meaning little armored one. It comes across as if it'll slow us down. It'll slow down those signs and signals if we have so much armor on, where we can't really let the clear information get through. Think of like an X-ray machine, and obviously on an X-ray, they'll put a lead apron over you, except the area that they're going to be X-raying, because you don't want to get X-rays all through your body. But on the other hand, think of the lead apron aspect of this. If we have a big old lead apron on our heart, our mind, maybe we're blocking out the signals that we could otherwise pick up, and it bogs us down. We'll get the signals eventually. We'll still see it, but it'll take a while maybe for it to penetrate into like the core of where we need to be able to sense it. So as far as intuition goes, probably that need to protect oneself could spark more. I'll just say it slows the signaling system. Give me another one on that. We've got a Six of Swords in the reverse, and we've got the Two of Wands in the reverse. So I would argue it this way, and this is going to be kind of an interesting message. If we keep having armor up, this doesn't mean it's a bad thing. This suggests that when our self or our soul says, I'm still in the mood to block, I don't even want to necessarily have to let my intuition operate at its optimum level, because secretly I'm still not over something. My wires are still crossed. I don't have the energy yet to have to deal with a new situation, pick up signs and synchronicities, understand clues. I don't have any more energy to process. Right now, I'm picturing in my mind like a circuit board that got fried. And so it's a different twist. I didn't expect it to take this kind of like a left turn here, but I think it's an important message. Those energetic blockages that bog us down and prevent us from hearing our intuition, this is saying, but wait, what if it's not like a negative thing? What if it's our body's way or our mind's way of protecting us when we're not ready to deal with something, because we're not done with the chaos from a previous thing? Our circuit board is still overloaded. We haven't replaced those wires yet and made better connections. Our energy, basically our nerves are frazzled. So we're not really wanting to have to deal with another situation. So it's kind of like, the truth of it is, I'm not ready to have to make new decisions, because I'm still dealing with the aftermath of old decisions. And that has either clouded me, but it could have also created this protective mechanism. And the protective mechanism could be, slow down, don't try to get into something when I'm really not ready and I can't sense what my intuition is telling me. Because it seems like if we didn't have that scar tissue, if we didn't have those fears, if we were truly over and healed from something, we may not still be blocked. And so if we're blocked and we're not getting the signals of our intuition, maybe it's because we're not ready for something new yet. Maybe that's the clearest message that this character's mind or psyche is sending them is, no, baby, we're not ready yet. We need to go, still, this is information. If we can't read our intuition, maybe it's because we're not ready to have to deal with stuff yet, because we're still needing to clear out old stuff. It's time to go sit with that counselor, that therapist, talk it out, figure out where is the lingering chaos here that blew out our circuit board, so we can first put that back together. Then we can take off that armor, and then it's going to be like game on. All of a sudden the intuition is like, whew, it's coming in all over, and I love it, and I can feel it, and I can taste it, and I know just what my intuition is telling me. That's the message I get on this. Now, remember, these are fictional stories. This is for food for thought. It's for fun. I'm not telling you this is how it works. I don't make statements of truth. I don't guide people in their lives. I am a storyteller. But I think it's a really interesting concept to think about. We kind of keep doubling down on this because it almost seems like so I'm going to show this card in the upright because it's such a great imagery also. But we've got the Chariot, only in this case, it's like, I'm ready to go in and do battle. I'm ready to go, racing in on my rhinoceros, and I've got my, hard hat on like a soldier driving a tank, right? This says, why move forward at all? You notice we have two like militarized images here, right? If it feels like our character is still essentially on a battlefield, why move forward in that energy? Why not go ahead and say, okay, clearly, and this could represent someone who feels like they're pulled in two different halves, and it's like, sometimes I think it's yes, and then my pendulum swings the other way, and I say, no, I don't want this. Sometimes I trust this, then other times I don't trust this. I'm back and forth, back and forth. This says, wait a second, that's exhausting. That feels like I'm battling myself. I don't want to move forward and battle myself, because to be in the Chariot in the upright, it would mean that we're in a place of balance. And we can move forward. When it's in the reverse, there's still chaos. And I think our character is saying, that's correct. I do know that. When I can't hear my intuition is because I'm actually not centered. I'm not balanced. I don't like being pulled in two directions. So instead I shut down. It's almost like it's kind of like suggesting that this character's like soul says, pause. You don't know which way to move forward yet because something is confusing. So pause. Don't take another step until it's okay to rest. It's okay to not know. It's okay to say, I'm not sure, so I won't be making a decision about that. That's what this says. Better than having to swing a pendulum this way and this way and that way and this way, because that could just get super exhausting. Okay, but Tammy Secord had posed a question. What's like a good way for a character to maybe start to work with intuition or develop more intuition? Or I like that we're starting out with what are the things that create blockage, and maybe what's the concept around that, and does that actually, in this case, it says it could actually provide our character with an idea where if it's too confusing, maybe if you don't know what to do, do nothing. The other saying is, make the choice you can live with. Don't be forcing oneself and saying, I should know the answer to this. I have to do this. I have to do this. This all says our character does not have to move forward. In fact, everything in them seems to be screaming, I don't want to yet. I'm already on overload. Why push myself to keep battling this? I need calm. I need peace. And then I can gain clarity. I think that's the first step to all of this from what we see from this story. But now let's check in with the ancestors. Ancestors, what do they have to say for this character in regards to the gut, the intuition? Ancestors say, stag, trust and thrive. This is very spiritual. And we have peacekeeper, let go of the need to be right. And we've got, I don't know if this is necessarily supposed to be white buffalo, but the white buffalo woman from the Lakota nation, to my limited knowledge, has much to do about dreams. So we could have someone who they're aware that maybe they need to seek more answers in that restful state. This almost says everything has its season, right? Even deer, shed their antlers at different times of the year. They're very much, it's interesting to get kind of power animals associated with wisdom, associated with dreams, associated with cycles, as the messages from the ancestors, because it reminds, and I chose an animal deck in the beginning, by the way, just because I'm talking about the gut, which to me is instinct. The clearest thing we can see, an example of instinct is any animal that you ever meet, right? They're so connected to the earth. They're so connected to the cycles of everything from the moon to the weather patterns. Even food supply impacts animals, and, ovulation in some species. Like there's lots of different things to consider. They're great examples of instinct, and they got a nose for danger. Yes, there's learned behavior and things like that species pass on to each other, but at the same time they have to be very much aware in a different way. So I think it's a great example to talk about animals. But it's funny how the ancestors double down on that and say, when we talk about the gut and the instinct, it shouldn't become our enemy, right? Trust and thrive. It says that instinct is a powerful and wonderful thing. It's not something, though, that will always be in full. If we look at it like the way we're seeing the antlers on the deer, they're going to shed and regrow. Maybe there are times where we feel a little bit vulnerable when our instinct, maybe our spirituality is getting an upgrade, and so our ability to connect with our instinct can be a little bit different. We may have an upgraded sense of instinct because you combine it with knowledge, just like animals in the animal kingdom do, right? At some point they had to learn, certain creatures, like certain snakes that have certain bands of color, are poisonous. There's certain things that animals learn throughout their generations. So even we could say, are evolving and picking up new information, even as in their individual life, they learn, my dog knows, because once when he was a puppy, I burned pizza. So now he knows that something fiery can happen inside that big silver box in the kitchen, and then smoke comes out and hot comes out, and he doesn't like it. So he, to this day, thinks he has to protect me when I cook. Not a great testament to my cooking abilities, huh? But the bottom line is he's learned that. He knows stove means danger. So he's always going to be extra alert, and he watches me cook all the time. That's learned behavior. But again, it's stuff that we can trust and thrive, but be patient during times when it feels like our antlers just fell off and our instinct isn't like picking up all the spidey senses, because maybe that's time for us to kind of step back and say, I don't know the answer. I'm going through probably a spiritual upgrade. I'll probably have a different comprehension. I'm probably assimilating new facts, just like my dog learned something new, and now he's put that into his entire lifespan. He knows fire, hot, bad. That is, maybe we're learning certain things. So maybe, again, when instinct seems to go through ebb and flow phases, maybe it's not. Maybe it's growth phases. And then that peacekeeper card, the let go of the need to be right. If somebody is so concerned all the time, like, I don't want to do somebody wrong, I don't want to misjudge, so I want to, even though I get this vibe that I don't think this feels good, I feel guilty about feeling that way. So I want to squash that. And I want to keep looking. I want to argue basically like I'm a lawyer in court, why I'm supposed to give the benefit of the doubt to someone who's just shown me behavior that everything in me says I don't like it. This says we don't have to be right all the time, and have. There's a book, I think it's called The Gift of Fear. And it's, I can't think of who wrote it, so please forgive me. But it was gifted to me many, many, many years ago by someone, because I was doing some traveling as a young woman alone. And they were like, you need to read this. It's going to help you. And, it's all about paying attention to the subtle things that just fleet through our mind sometimes, and examples of, sometimes even though we don't have enough factual evidence to say why this made me uneasy, it still could be a good thing to listen to. And that there's, again, it's about instinct primarily, but this says a character doesn't have to allow a feeling of guilt and worry that they're going to misjudge, cloud their ability to be able to make a judgment call. Sure, sometimes we'll be wrong, but it doesn't mean that we're going to make a judgment call and be like, ooh, I don't like that person. I have no reason not to, but I just am sure they're a bad person, and I'm going to go around and talk about them and say horrible things and ruin their reputation. That's not the kind of judgment call we're talking about. We're talking about, it's like, well, you meet somebody and they're trying to, get you to whatever, give them your card information or credit card information or whatever it is to buy something. And it's like, why am I reluctant to do this? Maybe I don't really need this item that they're trying to sell me, or maybe I'm not so sure I'm going to get the item that they are trying to sell me. Maybe it's okay to just say, I think I'll pass, and not have to give reasons and not have to try to explain, well, gosh, I feel so guilty because I know secretly I just don't feel safe and I don't have evidence as to why. This is more like saying, but just because somebody wants us to do something, we don't have to say yes. Just because somebody wants us to immediately give us their trust, we don't have to do that. We don't have to feel guilty about that. And again, it's just the letting go of the need to be right. Like, this is somebody who the ancestors are saying, if we have to justify every breath we take and everything we do to the nth degree, like a lawyer, where it has to be proved with, hard documents and blah, 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 it could take years to gather that much information to finally say, aha, now I know. I had to wait till they robbed me of $10,000 before I could admit that right out of the gate. I knew they did something really fishy. They wanted my social security number. But I thought, well, maybe they're not doing it for the wrong reason. It's like, no, don't give that out. There's certain things that seem obvious, but it's murkier territory when we're dealing with a character who's trying to decide how not to feel guilty about an intuitive zing that says, hey, I'm not so sure. And again, maybe it's because our character has learned things from past experiences that they've now added into their wealth of knowledge and wealth of decision-making skills. But if guilt overshadows knowledge and wisdom and past experience, then we're still going to squash the sensation of instinct, is what this is suggesting anyway, to the best that I can piece this together. So we kind of looked at it from two different angles, right? First, being okay with the fact that, yeah, sometimes we do block stuff. And that's one end of the spectrum. But sometimes there's a reason that we're just too frazzled to have to make new decisions. So maybe it's a good time to just step back and not feel forced to figure everything out immediately, but instead let all the energy calm, pull energy back, relax, not think about it for a while, let it resurface, or talk it out with a qualified therapist or somebody, and then readdress it, including, why might I be confused by this? Is there something from my past, a part of this? And then the second part, to hone that skill, it's to know that it is something that grows within us. Instinct grows, is what this suggests, but guilt overshadows it. That's the way I would look at this. Very interesting ideas to contemplate. Is there anything else here about, oh no, that's too many. But they came out, so we got to keep them. Okay. Is there anything else to contemplate when it comes to the concept of enhancing intuition, listening to the gut? The Inspiration of Swords says, learn how to gather information, because this is watching. This is stepping back and allowing someone to show who they are, hear what they actually say, gather the information, not like a spy, but rather allow the freedom of thoughts to flow, allow the freedom of information to prattle on. If we don't know enough information to know what we're feeling about something, this says, basically, pay attention to what's actually being said, and does it match with the action being taken, obviously. 9 of Swords, don't ruminate and stress, paying attention to what's in front of us, but not laying at night awake and turning those things into big scary monsters by overanalyzing and then twisting or changing the things that we saw or thought we saw. 8 of Wands, know that it is a road forward at all times. There's it's almost like intuition is like a living thing that is going to breathe right along with us. It's going to drive us forward. It's going to be with us our whole life. It's a road where what happens when we travel more, we become more travel savvy, right? We become, the more I've traveled in my life, the better driver I've become, right? I'm a way more defensive driver. I'm a way more alert driver. I'm a way more, I've been through some stuff now, and, there's crazy stuff that happens and you sometimes have to evade other people's bad driving techniques. Like that's a great maybe example of the more we use our intuition, the better it gets. And to know that it's not like we have to have all the answers yet, but the more we continue on through life, the more we're going to be utilizing it. So make it a friend, not an enemy. Perspective. When it gets overwhelming, pull back and look toward the higher perspective. And I say this because it's the Hanged Man. This is like, again, to let intuition work. It says there's, if we're looking at it too small, turn it over and look at it from a different vantage point. Get up above the problem. Like if there's, well, I'm not sure if I like the way somebody just said this to me. Okay, let me think. If my friend had somebody say the same thing to them, how would I feel? Would I be like, oh, not a big deal. They weren't trying to be rude when they said that to you. Or would we be like, whoa, they said what to you? That's not okay. Sometimes if we imagine it in a different scenario, so we take ourselves out of the equation, we can look at it from a higher perspective and say, if this wasn't me who experienced this, if someone else told me this had happened to them, what would my reaction be? That's what this is, contemplating. We have a 3 of Wands. It's nice to know that how we behave in the future is as of yet undetermined. So we have new choices to make. So sometimes we won't get it right, but instead of beating ourselves up and then turning it into, oh my gosh, but I've made mistakes, my intuition wasn't clear before, this says, it's all right. It's all right. It's all part of the game of life. We learn stuff and then we move on, and we'll get new chances probably to even be in the same situation again, because humans only have so many songs and dances, right? So if our intuition is going to, help us through our steps in life, we'll probably encounter similar scenarios in the future, and we'll get a chance to practice that intuition again. 8 of Swords. Notice where there's a stuck cycle. And when we're not listening to our higher selves or our messengers and guides, because we've got those little feathers around, trying to be, this is going to sound so terrible, but if someone is trying to be so perfect that they never make a mistake, and that their intuition always has to be spot on, nobody is perfect. So not feeling like we have to be an absolute angel, because this feels like that could get a person stuck, like overthinking that they're supposed to always get it right, never misjudge anything or anyone, but still have this perfect scorecard for their intuition. And if we think that way, like that perfectionism aspect might really get our character stuck. We have the Awakening and we have the High Priestess. It's so reassuring to see that this is like an evolutionary process, and the intuition is there regardless of whether or not we're using it. Just like whether or not we think about, we'll say, breathing, our lungs are doing it for us anyway. There's some autonomic nervous system things that are going on regardless of whether or not we think about them. So the intuition is there because the High Priestess is there. So it says, it's not like, oh, my intuition is broken. It's like, no, it's there. It's just sometimes we pay more attention to it than others, right? When we're huffing and puffing and run really fast, our lungs are really working for us. Meanwhile, if we slow our breathing down and we're deep water diving, we might be able to hold our breath for a really long time. But the bottom line is it's always still functioning. And there's this kind of reassurance that the purpose of it is to help us continuously lift ourselves up. Listening to the instinct, that's a beautiful part of our design. It might be a lovely connection to our higher self. And this is actually a judgment card. The Awakening card is a judgment card in this deck. It's like there does have to be some element of forgiveness. I keep feeling like the big message that came out to me in this is that one of the largest things to contemplate with intuition is, does our character forgive themselves for, even pre-forgive themselves for the fact that they may not always judge everything just right. I feel like we have a very conscientious character who doesn't want to do anybody wrong, doesn't want to get it wrong, doesn't want to think negatively and then feel like, oh my God, what if I misjudge? I'm so nervous, so I won't judge anything at all until it's so far down the road of, I've been so trespassed on that now I go, ooh, that was not okay. It just feels like we've got a real sweetheart here that that's the kind of character I think that we've been discussing for this particular story about intuition, because all of this kind of keeps coming back around to like releasing oneself from that burden and that guilt that it always has to be right. I can never make a mistake, because we are going to get it wrong sometimes. We're going to misjudge things. We're going to misjudge people and have to say, I'm so sorry. I totally got you all wrong. I feel really bad. Will you forgive me? Like, that's the humbling experience, I think, is a part of life. But again, the guilt factor could be blocking our characters' intuition because they put such a heavy pressure on themselves of, I have to get it right, though I can't possibly get it wrong. I'd feel too guilty. And so they're kind of doing themselves wrong instead, because they're not allowing themselves to hear it. And they're also not allowing themselves downtime to just say, look, I don't know. So I'm not going to make a judgment call right now. I don't have to say yes or no. I can just wait and see how I feel. It looks like we're dealing with a real sweetheart of a character who just has put a lot of pressure on themselves to always have all the right answer. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's what we got on this one. I read whatever story comes out, good, bad, or ugly. As I always say, I'm a fictional storyteller. I'm not going to tell you how life's going to go, how it's supposed to go. This is all food for thought. Feel free to jot down if you agree or disagree, add something in. I love to see your guys' comments. And if you have a topic that you would like a story about, please feel free to jot that down in the comment section as well. If I don't see people making suggestions, I just revert and I'll use my own deck that I've created for this. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye. Oh, and thanks for giving it a thumbs up.